Alright, so I'm going to show you two examples off the worksheet, number 3 and also number 13. So number 3 is given here, and we're solving for b. And so I wrote b equals and then the quadratic formula. First thing I want to do is identify a, b, and c. That'll be important. So a is the coefficient of b squared, so that's -1. B is the coefficient of the single variable b in this case. It's -5. And the c is the constant. In this case, it's -6. Alright, so then I'm going to write b equals opposite of opposite 5, because b is negative, so opposite of opposite 5 plus minus. And then the radical of, this is where you have to be careful with the b value that's negative. -5 squared minus 4 times -1, which is a, times c, which is -6. All of that is under the radical, and all of this is getting divided by 2 times a, which is -1. So now let's simplify this a little bit more. B is going to equal 5 plus minus, and then here's where I would go to your calculator and use this. Okay, could I do this all in my head? Of course, but just for speed, -5 squared minus 4 times -1 times -6, hit enter, and that equals 1. The calculator side, that's still under the radical. Now in this case it doesn't matter because it's the square root of 1, but I'm left with 5 plus minus radical 1 divided by 2 times -1, which is -2. So I'm going to have two answers here. B equals 5 plus 1 divided by -2, because all I'm doing is taking the square root of 1, which is 1. And B equals 5 minus 1 divided by -2. That's where the plus minus comes in. So if I simplify this, B equals 6 divided by -2. So one of my answers is -3. And B equals 4 divided by -2, which is -2. So my two solutions to this quadratic are -3 and -2. You could take those two values, you could plug them in together, one at a time though, into here. So -3 goes there, and -3 goes here, you'd get 0. If you took the -2, plugged that in, for both b's, you'd also get 0. One other example, solving for k. It looks a little bit different. 4k squared minus 4 equals 0. Let's identify a. By the way, this is number 13. A is 4. If there is no single k, the b value has to be 0, and the c value is -4. So when I put this into the formula, k equals opposite of 0 plus minus the radical of 0 squared minus 4 times 4 times -4. All of that divided by 2 times 4. Alright, so I'm going to simplify my radical, and I'm going to plug this in as 0 squared minus 4, parentheses, 4, that's a, c, and that's 64. Now notice what happens here. The opposite of 0 is 0, so there's nothing there. So all I really have is a plus minus radical 64 divided by 8. Now, how do I get my two answers? Well, this is where the plus minus comes in. The radical of 64 is 8, so I have to do plus 8 divided by 8, and that equals 1. And I have to do negative 8 divided by 8, and that equals negative 1. So in this case, my answers actually turn out to be opposites, and those two answers are 1 and negative 1. So if b is 0, this is what's going to happen. You're going to just have the plus minus, and you have to take the positive square root and the negative square root and divide that, in this case, by 8. And if you plugged in 1 and negative 1, it would check in the original equation.